This video is going to cover the concept of profiles and workspaces and how they relate to the AutoCAD interface. Now, if you've watched a few of my videos, you might have noticed that my ribbon changes in terms of which panels and tabs I have available to me. And the reason is because I do some switching back and forth between profiles and workspaces. And that allows me to have it set up in different ways so that I can teach different commands depending on what I'm doing. The default way that my AutoCAD would have normally installed is the way that you see it now. This is the AutoCAD architecture ribbon, and it's got very little customization on it right now. Concept of a profile in AutoCAD is basically a snapshot of interface settings that are set up in a particular way. And so you can have two different profiles in AutoCAD, and maybe you share your computer with your friend Bob. You can have your profile, and Bob has a profile, and whoever wants to use the AutoCAD on the computer can activate their profile. And in that way, you can each have your completely different customization done, and AutoCAD will instantly switch back and forth, but depending on who's using the computer. So I'm going to go to Options by typing OP and Enter. And then I'm on the Profiles tab. Notice that there's two profiles here, AutoCAD and AutoCAD Architecture, and that's the standard way that AutoCAD Architecture installs. A lot of times though I switch to the AutoCAD profile because when I teach basic regular AutoCAD I want my computer to look more like my students. So if I double click on the AutoCAD profile, then my ribbon changes and some of the other interface settings change so that it looks more like a standard AutoCAD setup. And then I'm going to hit OK to leave my options. It asks me about changing the content path, and that's fine. Just hit OK. Now my ribbon is going to look different. It takes a second. Now it has changed over. Now you can see I have the clipboard panel, I have the properties panel, I have the block panel, and I'm still on the home tab. So these are different options that I didn't have in the other profile. Profiles do not only affect the ribbon, they affect a lot of other settings in the interface that are able to be saved with a profile. So you have the ability to customize a lot of other things in the process. I'll have to get into this in more detail in another video. Now, the other thing that you can do to change your ribbon quickly is by changing workspaces. Now, a workspace is basically similar to a profile, and that's why it's somewhat confusing. A workspace controls the setup of the ribbon. So what's the difference between a profile and a workspace? Well, the profile controls a lot more than just the ribbon. The workspace controls the visible aspects of what you see in terms of the ribbon and the quick access toolbar up at the top, etc. Your workspace is also kind of a subcategory of your profile. So now that I'm in the AutoCAD profile, I can click on my workspace, which is available at the lower right. You may have it available at the upper left, but everybody should have it at the lower right. It looks like a small gear, and if I click on that, you can see that there are several different workspaces available. The default one that you're in most of the time is 2D drafting and annotation. If I go to 3D basics, then you'll see that the ribbon has changed yet again to some basic 3D modeling tools, which we'll use in a future video. And then I have 3D modeling, so this is a more advanced 3D modeling ribbon. And so you have more tabs and more panels. And then there's also the AutoCAD Classic, which actually switches you over to having standard pull downs and toolbars. So if you've used AutoCAD in the past, you might appreciate that. But normally I stay on 2D drafting and annotation, but just to show you that's the concept of workspaces. Now, the other thing with profiles, like I said, is you can switch between multiple different users, and you can also use that to back up whatever customizations you've done to your interface. So if I go back to options and look at my profiles again, I can use whichever one of these I want, like AutoCAD Architecture. If I switch back to that and hit OK, now it has come back to my ribbon. It will in a moment. There it goes. It has the wall, door, and window tools, which I will be doing videos on later, and does not have the properties, so again, different ribbon options. Now, what if I've done some more heavy customization to my interface? Then it's a good idea to back up your profile, which basically you can do by exporting it and putting it somewhere on your hard drive as a backup profile. So if you had to reinstall AutoCAD, let's say, or even if you upgraded to AutoCAD 2012, you could load your previous profile and then that would bring in all those customizations for you. So it doesn't really make a big difference to me right now because I haven't customized this a great deal, and I do that intentionally because I want to look like your computer's at home. Now I'm going to hit export, and then I can save that profile somewhere on my hard drive, which is an ARG file. I do use also a professional 2010 version of AutoCAD, which I do more of my professional work on, and that's much more highly customized, but that's why I teach with 2011 in the educational version, and then I do my professional work on 2010, which is more heavily customized, and it would be harder for me to teach because it looks a lot more different than all of yours at home. Now, if I had to reinstall my AutoCAD, then I could come into options and hit import and bring in that profile in order to load all the customizations that I have made. So that's how the profiles generally work. Now, there's one other important thing to keep in mind. Now, another thing to keep in mind is the shortcut on your desktop is not just a standard Windows shortcut. You don't want to ever delete it because it has very special properties, and those properties actually relate to the profile. So if you find your desktop icon and right-click and go to Properties, you'll notice that there's a target field, and this is not standard in most Windows shortcuts. But if you might have to, in that target field, there's a long list of several strings of information. If you click in the field to get the flashing cursor, and then I'm going to put my finger on the right arrow key on my keyboard and kind of stand on it for a minute so that I scroll through all the information that's in here. There's a switch in this line that is /P and then a space, and then in the quotes is the name of the specific profile that is going to load when AutoCAD starts from that desktop icon. So in my 2010, which I've customized, I have my own specific profile backed up and loaded, and then I've changed my desktop icon to load that profile when AutoCAD starts from the icon. So whatever profile is listed here is the one that will be the default when AutoCAD starts. So you can always change that, just make sure that it is spelled out exactly how the profile is named. If you were to take out this information basically from the switch P through the end of the quote that I have highlighted, you could remove all that, and then it's going to always revert to whichever profile was last used when you last ran AutoCAD. So keep that in mind. That switch is an important aspect of if you want to set up a custom profile and then load it in at some point. This would have to refer to your profile for that to be the default when you use the icon. If you double click on a file that's on your hard drive, it will automatically reload the last used profile because then it's not having the opportunity to use this switch because you didn't use the icon on the desktop. So I hope that clarifies some. When I switch back and forth, if my ribbon looks different than yours, you can either try switching workspaces. You can look at your profiles that are in your options to see if you have more than one. I usually recommend people install AutoCAD Architecture because you can always go back to running it like AutoCAD, but you can't make AutoCAD run like AutoCAD Architecture because they're different software in that regard. So keep that in mind. If you want to install AutoCAD Architecture as the default, I think that's a smarter idea. And then you'll have the option to run it in either way and get to the ribbon in either way. I will do a video later that teaches you how to customize the ribbon in a much more detailed way, because you can basically create your own panels, your own tabs, and set that up however you want. So I'll get to that in good time.